We all yearn for something, whether that is relationships, experiences, emotions. Everyone constantly finds themselves with a desire for a thing beyond themselves. However, for most of us, and possibly for the whole human condition, there is one thing that ties all of these things together, that unites them. Happiness is that thing that connects them all. Why? Well, because we understand happiness as our highest state of well-being. We all want to be happy. It's all we ever strive for. I consider myself to be one of the many people who not only love happiness, but whose ultimate goal in life is to be happy. Yes, I understand the importance of all other emotions and value them, because experiencing them all is essentially the true joy. But for me, my favorite thing is and will forever be to feel happy. The dilemma is that happiness, even though it is the most longed for emotion, it is the one we struggle with the most to understand and to achieve. And I know I am not the only one here who struggles with this, am I? I believe many of us are mistaken because we tend to understand happiness as the end. This is, you work for it, you reach it, you enjoy it. And once it is over, you repeat. However, with time, we've come to understand that happiness, instead of being the end, it is the journey. So there is really no end, and you never really reach a state of anything, but instead, it is a cycle of emotions that repeat themselves forever. And it is in this cycle that we find happiness. We might find it alone or accompanied. It might look like bits of moments, maybe long ones, maybe the extraordinary, or even the little things. Society has somehow made us believe that there is a list of things that we must obligatorily achieve in order to be happy. Let me give you some examples. Achieve X amount of money, get X title, travel to X place. These are all ends. But if we said that happiness is found all throughout the journey, then it is safe to say that it might appear multiple times, expressed differently, and in the most spontaneous ways possible. Happiness is simplistic. It comes and it goes. Which leads us to our most important question. What is happiness? What exactly is it that we are looking for? Throughout history, different people have had different things to say in order to answer our question. Neurologists, psychologists, philosophers, they all have their different viewpoints because essentially we all experience happiness differently. Now the real question is, who is exactly right? Let's start by looking at psychology, which is the most practical answer of all. Those who study emotion and behavior directly. Martin Seligman, professional in positive psychology, says happiness revolves around this concept of 3 dimensions. In the first dimension, we enjoy the small things. In the second dimension, we find our virtues and our strengths. And in the third one, we use these for something greater than us, like, for example, contributing to the well-being of others. For Seligman, happiness is knowing that all the good you can make is contributing to the well-being of others. Alternatively, Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi says happiness revolves around his concept of flow. Flow is when we are completely consumed by the action that we are performing. For Mihaly, happiness is not a synonym of being relaxed, but rather being challenged to the perfect degree. Not too easy and not too hard. When we flow, we forget ourselves and we act effortlessly since we are completely engaged, focused, and present in the action that we are performing. In flowing, we lose consciousness in a long-lasting state where we overcome the chaos of our minds and find happiness. Now, on the other hand, we have the philosophers who have also given a lot of thought to our question in their studies to understand the fundamental truths. Plato then believes happiness is centered around the knowledge. He talks about goods that can only be attained through knowledge. In other words, there are goods that we must use, and the way in which we properly use them is by using our knowledge. So knowledge is the medium for happiness, and the proper use of these goods is what happiness is. On his book On the Usefulness and Inconveniences of Life, Friedrich Nietzsche says that in order to be happy, humans want to live like animals in a non-historic context. Let me break this down for you. Living like animals in a non-historic context means being present and being detached from the past. For him, there are 2 types of happiness: tiny happiness, which are states that can be interrupted, and maximum happiness, which are states that completely interrupt the average state of unhappiness of a person. What links these two together is the fact that they involve forgetting. Forgetting is the way in which we can heal from the past. But to do this, we must understand that it's impossible to detach ourselves completely from it. Instead, what is possible is to let go and make room for the things that are worth remembering. So, not exactly forgetting, but keeping what is worth. Now, this is where it gets the most interesting, and it is the fact that our question, what is happiness, it has no answer. And it has no answer because there are a million different answers to it. Dr. Mihaly says it's flow, Plato talks about knowledge, Seligman talks about his 3 dimensions, and Nietzsche talks about forgetting. Even the most brilliant minds, those who have dedicated their entire lives to studying and understanding this emotion, have different things to say. Now, what is key here is to understand that none of them are wrong, but instead, all of them are right. Happiness is everything and anything. Nothing is written in stone. So if the most brilliant minds are right about what they say, even when their answers differ from one another, we too are entitled to create our own definition of happiness. And today, I would like to share mine with you. For me, happiness is the house and the garden that you see in the picture above. It is endless afternoons full of joy spent with my family. Happiness is reading a book that makes me question the world. It is developing my film pictures and reliving memories of people and places I love. Happiness is traveling. It is spending hours in parks and museums, eating my favorite red velvet cupcake and drinking my coffee exactly the way I like it. More milk than coffee. Happiness is going out on a Saturday night with my friends to dinner, singing along to my favorite song of the moment, and even sleeping in late. Happiness is the woods, it is snow, it is good food, friends, and places. However, I would like to be honest with you all. As much as I experience happiness, I experience all other emotions. And among them, there are 2 predominant ones: nostalgia and anxiety, both rooted in me spending too much time in the past and in the future. With time, I've come to realize that it is these 2 emotions that trick my happiness the most. And what ties them is the fact that they involve me not being in the present, being everywhere else but in the moment. When I talk to you about all the things that make me happy, the books, the places, my friends, these are all moments when I was completely present, to the point that I wasn't even aware that they were happening, until later when I recalled the past and how it made me feel. So for me, they are all right. Nietzsche, Plato, Mihaly, Seligman, they all make both a valid and accurate point. Happiness is doing what I enjoy, contributing to a greater good, exploiting my knowledge, but above all, happiness is being present. When we are present, we are able to live things in the most vivid ways possible, which enables us to do everything else and truly enjoy and appreciate the moment. That, for me, is happiness. As writer Maria Popova affirmed in her newsletter, The Marginalian, what an exquisite way to capture the idea that happiness is found in being intensely present with one's experience. What is happiness? It is an open-ended question and it has no answer. Or, let me correct myself, the answer is anything you wish for it to be. Happiness gives you the opportunity to shape it in any way you want. You wish for happiness to be the people you love? Let it be. You wish for happiness to be your favorite hobby? Let it be as well. You wish for happiness to be a place, a smile, the hug of a stranger? Every single thing is valid. As long as you're immersed and present, happiness is anything you want. So that is exactly the invitation for today, for you to sit down and take the time to write your own definition of happiness, knowing that anything that comes to mind is valid and that it can always change. Nothing is written in stone. It will never be. Happiness is dynamic, it is beautiful, it is powerful, it is endless. Happiness is anything and everything. Thank you.